Welcome, everyone, to Night Caller's Bigfoot Radio. It is January 23rd, 2017, and I'm here with the whole group. We're with Miss Lauren Smith, Ricky Smith, Jeff Stewart, and myself, Laurie Hood. And we welcome all of you tonight, and we're going to have a great show. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
And everybody talk at once.
Everybody don't talk at one time. I'm personally doing really good. Can't complain about anything. That's unusual for me.
What did you think about your surprise, Jeff?
The new intro is what she's referring
to. Yes. I was surprised. I did not expect that, and it was good. I hope that all of the listeners and everything like it as much as I did.
I hope they do too. We just needed something that was our own.
Yeah.
So we bought the rights to the song.
And it was.
So there we are.
Upbeat, and I mean, it was really catchy, and it was really good as far as I was concerned. I thought it was great.
Well, for a Monday night when you're half dead, it will at least wake you up before the show starts. A little. We hope it will anyway.
And which now there was nothing wrong with the old intro. It was really good too. So
really
for those that love the old one, I mean, the old one is great. Which I'm a sucker for. The Celtic music, anything old. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, if it's like older stuff like that, I really have an affinity for it, just because respecting the fact that, I mean, these are people that carved instruments out of sticks and used sheep bladders to, hey, I'm going to make a musical instrument. I mean, what kind of intelligence and engineering skills does that have to take, to be
very
sitting around
creative.
Going, there's a couple of sticks and a dead dog. I think I can make a musical instrument.
Well, tell us about your owl, Jeff. What's the news? We put a video up on our Facebook page, by the way. But let's hear the personal story about it. As you remember, let me just say this. As you remember, several weeks ago, Jeff was on the show, but he was actually en route to rescue an owl that had been hit by a car. And then since then, he has posted a picture of himself and the owl as it's recovering. And so, where are we at with your owl today?
Well, kind of a bittersweet moment. I rescued her back before Christmas. She had a broken wing. I fixed her wing. To go back a little bit, I got her. I had to get permission from Texas Parks and Wildlife to take possession of an owl because they are a protected species. Texas Parks and Wildlife told me, man, just take her out in the woods, set her down on the ground, and let the coyotes have her. Basically, let her die. We're not going to come get her. We're not going to help you. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to let her die. And I said, can I give it a shot? And they were like, sure. But it's not going to be worth it, basically. So I got the owl, brought her home, named her Bubo, or called her Bubo, after the owl on the original Clash of the Titans movie, the mechanical owl. And she had a broken wing, and I repaired that broken wing, and people can laugh if they want to. I repaired that broken wing with some popsicle sticks and some JB Weld. I didn't have anything long-lasting, and what I did is I put some plastic, some tape, like a Christmas wrapping tape, clear tape, on both sides of the bone, set the bones back in place, and then covered that tape with JB Weld, and then put the popsicle sticks on both sides of that for bracing. And she's had that on there since before Christmas, so about 6 weeks or so. I took it off Saturday, and her wing was healed. It was back together. It was solid. She wanted out of that cage so bad, she was just not happy. So I decided to take her down, turn her loose, and see if she could fly for a little while. So I took her out of her cage, drove down to a safe place, my land, where nobody's going to be shooting at her or any dumb rednecks come by and, hey, man, I'm going to shoot me an owl. In which I say that in all jokingness is a word. I say it jokingly because I am a redneck. I don't pretend not to be. But turned her loose. She flew about 10 feet, landed, turned around, and looked at me like, okay, I'm ready to go back home. And I walked down, picked her up, took her deep into the woods, close to where I had a hog feeder where squirrels and rats and things are coming in and eating corn, other small animals. And I sat her on a limb. And I walked away. And as I walked away, she flew through the woods following me back.
Oh, man. Oh, wow.
I had to clap my hands, yell, beat sticks to scare her away.
Aww.
And the last I saw her, she had flown several hundred yards to the creek bank, had landed in a tree, and when I drove off, she was in the woods, happy and healthy. So, chalk one up for the good guys.
Thank you, Jeff, for being a friend to the owls. You know, they're my favorite bird. They really are. They sure are. Well,
you know, and I've always been very wary of owls and things because of my Native American heritage. The owl is not necessarily a good omen, and being a person that raises small animals, owls are very predatory, and I have had several smaller animals snatched up by owls and things like that. So it was one of those things where you're sitting here and you're going, you know, no matter what kind of animal it is, it's wounded, it's in trouble. If I don't do something, it's going to die a horrible death. And you just got to make the decision. You've got to help. Sometimes you just got to gut it up and help something that needs help.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. Good.
No, you're good.
Well,
I'm wiping
thank
my
you so
eyes
much.
over here. I'm having a Fox and the Hound moment. Thanks, Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I want Lauren to tell us about the movie she saw very quickly. I think it's been out for a while, but she watched the movie, when was it? Saturday night? It was a Bigfoot movie.
Jeff knows which movie it is. Something in the Woods.
Oh, yes. One of my favorites because
Yes, mine too.
I was lucky enough to be invited to I got invited to the premiere by the gentleman that made the movie and stars in the movie, David Ford. He is a good friend of mine. Michael Hall, also in that movie.
Well, that's
Brian
nice
Hippie
to know because we'd like to have him as a guest. So now we know who to ask.
There would be no problem having David on as a guest sometime. David's a great guy. But sorry, you go ahead and tell us about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. It was really well made. I loved the storyline. You know, they went with the family's events, but I feel like they added other stuff in there that I just loved it. It's a good family film too. Little scary, but not. It's Boggy Creek, basically. It's Boggy Creek.
And it's a true story.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Do you have the DVD right there handy?
No.
I should say, if you have the DVD cover, and look on the back of it, you will see my movie review of that movie. It's actually featured on the back cover of the DVD.
You're so fancy, Jeff.
No kidding. Just a man of mystery.
And I didn't even know that it was. I didn't even know it was on there until someone pointed it out. They had sent me a copy of the DVD after the premiere. I think Mike Hall had sent it to me. He's excellent in the movie. Funny as all get out.
He is a really good actor. He's good.
Then somebody said, "Hey, look on the back cover. Isn't that what you wrote? Your review of the movie?" And I was like, "Oh, it is." So I was like, "Cool." But I love that movie because it's made like you were talking about. It's made like the old school Bigfoot movies where it had some. There was no CG in the movie. It was all. I mean, the most of the budget was spent on making the prosthetic suit. It was actors, and it was. There were. It was good for what it was for a movie with a limited budget. It was better than movies that I've seen that were made with budgets that were probably 10 times the size.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
it. Do we recommend Somewhere in the Woods for our listeners?
Something in the Woods, and yes.
Something in the Woods. There you go. See, I haven't seen it.
Somewhere in the Woods is where you live, and Something in the Woods is a movie about Bigfoot. No, I do recommend it.
I very much so recommend it.
It's a good family film, and it's got a lot of heart.
No cursing, no sex, no nudity, and it didn't need any of it. It was good without it.
Yeah.
Good.
Nowadays, too many movies rely on the nudity and the graphic goriness and just the foul language and everything more than the acting and the content of the movie, the story and things like that. This movie to me was, it was just good. And you didn't miss all that stuff because you can sit down with your 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 8-year-old, or your 44-year-old and watch it. And I can sit down, I can watch it with my mother without being embarrassed because the next thing you know, there's a pair of boobs popping across the screen.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't have to worry about that, or you're not watching it with your small child with your hands over their face half of the movie.
Well, I don't watch slashers or sci-fis with my child anyways, but that one I would watch with my child. He has a really overactive imagination, so it probably wouldn't be a good idea, but I'm probably going to let him watch it anyway because my mom let me watch Boggy Creek, and I was
a sorry mother. I was so sorry, Mom. I'll tell you right now.
Well, I was the one that had kids that by the time, especially my daughter, I love her, bless her heart. By the time she was about 10 or 11, she was sitting beside me and could quote just about every horror movie. I mean, she could quote Texas Chainsaw Massacre word for word from the minute it came on the screen. But she would be like, she'd tell other people, now this stuff ain't real. That guy's an actor, So, I mean, I made sure she knew it wasn't real, and she didn't ever get scared from it. I was very lucky on that because I guess I was one of the type of parents that I would show my kids a lot of things, and I was like, this isn't real, right? This isn't really happening. So I had that kind of an approach. So, but to everybody their own. Hey, the way I parent don't work for everybody.
Okay. Well, let's. I'm ready to hear our guest. I had a little thing to tell, but it's kind of silly. But I just want to say it real quick. Actually, Saturday. We only get one channel out here in the woods, somewhere in the woods. We only get like one channel. And So, you know, you kind of stuck just watching stuff. But they had this one walleye show on, and this guy from a zoo, and don't ask me his name. Anyway, he was visiting some place down in South America where they had gorillas. Well, he got there, and the people that you know, were in this gorilla preserve told them what they needed to do in case they encountered a gorilla. It was very interesting what they told them. They said, if you see a gorilla, do not advance on them. Do not try to chase them or hold a camera up or anything like that, because they take that as being aggressive or hunting them. Instead, if you really want to have an encounter with a gorilla, it's best to sit down on the ground and chew on a piece of grass or leaf. Act like you're eating. And I thought, I wonder if that'd work for Bigfoot.
I don't think I could eat and.
But you know, that's a very interesting point.
Yes, you know, because you said about research, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I mean, you know, we see a Bigfoot, we're trying to get evidence. We charge, you know, I don't know if everybody charges through the woods, but we always have this body language that we're pursuing them. And they're suggesting that the best thing to do is just act like you're not even interested in them and you're only interested in eating. Then they'll come in closer because they feel safe.
One of my techniques that I've used for years that has got me a lot of results is when I will walk through the woods for a little bit, but then I'll find a tree and just sit down beside a tree, or I'll find a spot on the creek bank and I'll just wander over and sit down. And I mean, I'll just sit there and, you know, do things, you know, doodle in the sand, or just sit there and play with my phone or anything and just sit there. I'm not pursuing anything. I'm just in the woods just having a fun day because, and my theory always is, 99.9% of your encounters are by people who are not out in the woods looking for Bigfoot. They are people that have encounters while they're out hiking, backpacking, camping, playing in the woods, or doing something, hunting, doing some other activity other than looking for Bigfoot. So when I go out looking for Bigfoot, I try not to look for Bigfoot. I try to just keep aware, but do things that don't make it look like I'm the predator. I don't want them to look at me like I'm the predator.
That's what they were saying. Yes. Yes. Don't be a predator. You know?
And that's like when I go out at night and I've had all the sticks thrown at me and things like that. I go and sit beside a tree, and they always initiate the stick throwing, you know, playing the catch with the sticks. I'm sitting by a tree, and they'll throw a stick at me, and I throw it back. And so it goes right along with what you were saying they said about the gorillas, and to me makes perfect sense.
Yep. Well, I'm going to tell you all what. We have a really, really special guest tonight. We have never had anybody from Britain. And we actually have a gentleman from Britain who has written a wonderful book called The Beast of Britain. And Lauren, if you will, read his introduction, and we will bring him on. Are y'all ready? I'm ready.
As long as the name of his town is not in this bio.
No, it's not. I checked.
He was trying to tell us how to say it for about 10 minutes, and as Southerners, we were failing miserably. Okay. Night Colors Bigfoot Radio presents Andy McGrath of The Beast of Britain. Beast of Britain is a creation of Andy McGrath, a crypto enthusiast with over 25 years of research and obsession about the unknown creatures living right under our noses here on this tiny island in the North Atlantic. From a wildlife point of view, the accepted fauna of the British Isles were discovered and catalogued in their finite and immovable state in the 19th century. Nothing has really been added to this list or considered worthy since, and the continual reports of water monsters, Bigfoot, mystery big cats, and UFCs, Unidentified Flying Cryptids. These are largely ignored or used as newspaper fillers to entertain us. Andy's focus is on current research and recent sightings, pictures, videos, and eyewitness accounts of the many cryptids of the British Isles. He is currently writing a book and a TV series under the same name, Beast of Britain. Although vast advancements in science and technology have brought the great discoveries in other lesser-known parts of the world, their island lies largely underexplored and overlooked. At night, outside of the busy cities and next to the unlit lakes and lonely mountains, it is an island in the darkness, where nobody ventures into the woods anymore, and the pervading paradigm scares all the most foolhardy scientists away from any serious investigation of the many yet-to-be-discovered beasts of Britain.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Mr. Andy McGrath, we welcome you to Night Callers Bigfoot Radio. Thank you for coming on. How are you tonight?
I'm very, very good, Laurie. Thank you. And Laurie and Jeff, nice to meet you all, and thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Sir, can you tell us where you're from?
Well, I'm originally
now
from...
you'll all know what we were talking about.
I'm originally from Wales, which is a Celtic enclave in the west of Britain, from an Irish family. But I currently live in Surrey, in a place called Thames Ditton, which is a suburb of London. And so I'm in the south of England, southeast of England at the moment, in London, you could say, in a small village just outside.
Okay, and how did you become interested in the Beast of Britain, the lore?
Well, for a long time, as long as I can remember, I've been intrigued, especially with things like Bigfoot, mystified by the possibility of these man-like bipedal apes wandering the forests and the hills and the mountains of the most isolated and unexplored places in the world. I always dreamed as a child of growing up and going off to film something like the Patterson Gimlin film, or get a giant squid or some sort of lake monster in some faraway place on film. And then in recent times, my study has brought me to the many sightings of these creatures in Britain, in the British Isles, in the UK and Ireland. And it's something that we don't really think about. We always think here in our country that everything's been discovered, and the mysterious creatures like Bigfoot is in the Pacific Northwest, and the lake monsters, apart from Nessie, perhaps they're in Okanagan, or the pterosaurs, they're in Texas, or in the Far East, and the dragons and the almas and the different things that you hear about. We never concentrate on our country, and there's tens, not hundreds, but tens of reports every year of Bigfoot-like creatures, dogman-like creatures, occasionally unidentified flying cryptids, lots of lake monster reports every year, and increasingly, especially this last year, more and more footage. And I just started to think to myself, well, this is less about the beasts that are out there somewhere and more about the beasts in our backyard. And should I write about them? Because there's no books really about what's here in Britain, and I should call it the Beast of Britain, or Beast of Britain. And that's how I came up with the name.
Huh. So what kind of beast are we talking about?
Well, primarily, I think what we tend to have a lot of are sea serpents and lake monsters. Now, these are Nessie-like creatures that are not only in Loch Ness, but in the hundreds of other lochs there and lakes in England and Wales and Ireland. And there are also many, many sightings around the coast. Now, to give an example of that, I was present in London last March and April when there was a sighting of a Loch Ness type of monster in the River Thames in the middle of London, in a very busy waterway, in a city of 7.5 million people. Somebody filmed from our cable car.
Wow.
3 humps of a creature that looked to be 60 or 70 feet long, rising and submerging into the river, into quite a deep part of the river. and it's a great bit of film. It's obviously a very incidental piece of film. Whoever's riding the cable car is just filming his view, and is suddenly shocked by what he sees in the river. And it's perhaps 5 or 6 seconds. That was exciting to me. We do occasionally get some porpoises or whales in the river, but they don't have humps. They don't have 2 or more humps anyway. And it was one sighting, and I thought, okay, it's an isolated thing. Let's just see if it happens again. And 1 week later, there was a second sighting, filmed again, from a pleasure boat of a serpentine creature, again about 50 to 60 feet long, swimming in the river and turning in a sort of swimming in an S shape, which again is not possible for a whale or a cetacean or a dolphin or any type of creature like that. And we definitely don't have snakes, or at least not any of that kind of size. So it was very, very interesting. This night I got out on the water myself. I went to have a look. I took a boat out onto the Thames to look for this creature in the childlike hope at 40 years of age that I would find it. I didn't find it. It was due for my holiday time. Then I went away, and the first week that I was away, there was another film sighting, taken this time from a speedboat tour going along the river next to a place called Canary Wharf, which is a big business center just off the river. And a huge black hump is seen just to the left of the camera, rising out of the water and submerging back in again. So there's 3 filmed sightings of what appears to be some sort of Nessie type of animal, very, very large. And you've got to think to yourself, this is the middle of London. People are seeing this, and yet it makes the papers for a day or two in a kind of tabloid kind of way. Only the tabloids normally really reported for a few headlines, and then it's gone. It's missing again. You never see it. A few months later, there's another sighting, and there was one in Wales, where I come from, of something they call the Barmouth Estuary Monster. And this creature, again, a lot smaller than the Nessie-like creature that was seen in the River Thames. This creature had 2 rich spines on its back and a shorter neck, but a very crocodilian head and a rounded back. And it was photographed by a pensioner in the morning, going to get his weekly payment. We call it a pension. They pick. I don't know if you have that there. They pick it up from their local post office once a week. The older people. So he was on his way early morning to collect his pension, and sure enough, in the river there's a huge monster swimming about, and he managed to capture it on his camera phone. And that's just, those are just 2 of many, many sightings every single year, and they're growing and growing with the common use of photographic equipment like camera phones or GoPro cameras when people are cycling or sailing or whatever. They're becoming more and more frequent.
Huh. So when you say that they saw a huge monster, was it a Bigfoot creature or something else, like a dragon or a lizard man? Or?
No, this was like a Loch Ness type monster.
Oh, I see.
So I've got the characteristic 3 humps, and that's when we're talking about the kind of animals that we possibly have here. Those are the most commonly reported sightings off the coast and in the lakes and rivers. Loch Ness type creatures, varying descriptions, but always of that similar plesiosaur-like format. And that's something I've been interested in for a very long time. But in regards to Bigfoot-like creatures, and this is something I've only really come to in Britain anyway in the last year or so, there are hundreds of sightings. And there's a very good source of those sightings. Actually, you might be aware of them, the British Bigfoot Research Group, or the UK Wildman Sightings, run by Adam Bird and Deborah Hatswell. And they've created a map of all of the Bigfoot and Dogman sightings in the UK, an interactive Google map, if you will. But you can just click on to any point in the map and your location, your area, and find the sighting and see the witness testimony just as it's written. And I think it's very exciting to think that these things are here in our country, I remember seeing the Finding Bigfoot episode in Britain, and they were all kind of confused as to why they come to Britain to look for a Bigfoot. And I was also confused at the time, thinking, well, you're not going to find one of those here. You know, we don't really have very dense forests like you have in the United States, and our mountains are hills compared to your mountains. And you know,
Yes.
although it's very wild out there and empty, it's fields and bushes and small forests and small hills and tiny mountains. And so I didn't think that they existed here. And since discovering this research group, the British Bigfoot Research Group, I've really come into a great source of sightings. And they're so similar to your American Bigfoots. You know, they have the same large, hairy biped, 6 to 8 feet tall, shaped like a man with a monkeyish man face. You know, it's black or mousy brown or grayish, reddish brown hair. Had the same, reflecting or glowing eyes in the darkness. They do wood knocks, tree structures, rock piles, make stick dens, and you have to think to yourself, this is a similar animal. This may be the same animal in a different place, and it really excites me to think that we have these animals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's amazing to me. I actually haven't been out in the field researching these animals yet. I do plan to go, and if we get the TV series, then that there will be a few locations that we want to visit and film at. And I was very interested in what Jeff said about not hunting, just kind of being.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the sightings you have here in the UK are very similar to the sightings that Jeff describes there, which is, somebody is doing something else, and the animal appears and checks them out, or comes to see what they're doing. And I think that's a very good technique, one which I hope to employ.
So have you ever been to any of these places where these sightings have occurred?
I haven't for the Bigfoot. I have the lake monsters. I did spend some time at Loch Ness, which is a rite of passage, really. If you think of it, you can't be into cryptozoology in the UK and not go to Loch Ness. It's against the law. And they will arrest you.
You can't go to Loch Ness. It's against the law. Did you just say?
You can't not go to Loch Ness if you're a cryptozoologist.
Oh.
That's
that's
against
right.
the law. Punishable.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, you sound great.
Right. Well, I had to run and turn everything in the house off that was using data, using internet, so that I could have enough internet, enough speed or whatever to hear. Everything was just so, for lack of a better word, pixelated sounding, so I missed quite a bit of what you were saying at first. One of my big intrigues with the UK is the big cats, the sightings of the big cats, the black cats, the lynxes, and all of those things, because, the UK, I mean, there's only, one native wildcat species, that's like the Scottish Highlands cat or something like that.
Yeah.
And, they're really not anything bigger than a house cat. And there's just so many sightings of the panthers.
Hundreds.
And oh my goodness, and videos of unexplained cats and things everywhere. And then it brings you to, probably one of the most famous cryptid, I guess you would call it, sightings in the UK would be the Beast of Bodmin Moor.
The Beast of Bodmin, that's right. I mean, that's the famous one, again. And it hasn't actually been seen that many times because Bodmin Moor is such a huge and some arid bog, essentially. There are big cat sightings everywhere, and even in 2016, I think there have been 20 or 30 sightings. I did a blog about this recently, the big cat sightings, and questioning why we had so many, or why we supposedly had so many in the UK, and it really, there's no mystery to it. We had sort of prestige and status animals that were owned here in the 1970s. And in 77, they brought in the Dangerous Wild Animals Act, and it was basically a very expensive licensing dictation to people on how they could keep the cats, which you probably know about, and people just let them go. Assuming either that they would die out there in the wilderness or they would survive and nobody would find them, and it's perfect for them. We don't have really any natural predators in the UK. We have millions and millions of livestock animals everywhere, as well as small wild animals and larger things like deer and those types of creatures as well. In Wales alone, actually, where I come from, we have a population of 3 million people and 9 million sheep. So, there's plenty of animals to prey on without really making a dent in the population. And there's lots of kills at the scene. Jeff, I'm actually aware of 4 sightings myself that were related to me, not for the purpose of cryptozoology, but years ago through an old girlfriend, and there was a sighting that took place in a place called Crimach. That's a difficult place to say, in West Wales, near the Preseli Mountains, on the property that I was staying on. And what happened was I was dating a girl there in West Wales, and we all stayed at her parents' house in the countryside for Christmas. And one of her mother's friends who was staying was a heavy smoker, and she went out early in the morning to smoke outside on the porch, on the patio there, or the foyer. And she lit her cigarette. She was sitting there quietly, and she looked across, and 10 feet away from her, there was a panther just looking at her. She dropped her cigarette accordingly, and it stared at her for 30 seconds or more, she said, and just melted into the undergrowth. It just turned around and walked away. And you get sightings like that.
Uncanny ability. Cats have that uncanny ability to be there 1 second, and the next minute they just melt into the backdrop.
Gone.
And another interesting thing, you were saying, people, is it a mystery that you have that many cats? Cats are one of the few animals in the world, kind of like dogs, that no matter what cat species it is, they can breed with any other cat species.
That's right. That's right.
If the coupling is physically possible, all it takes is for the female to stop long enough and accept the male, and they will breed. So that's why you can have things like bobcats and house cats, domestic cats, breed together, or lynxes and domestic cats, or you could have a cougar and a jaguar, or any of these different, an African leopard and a jaguar. If their physical size is compatible for the coupling to take place, it can happen.
Sure.
And you will have an offspring.
There are stories here of hybrids, actually of the hybrid sightings. They're not very common, but there are a few sightings. There are occasionally pictures that turn up of a very large cat. Maybe not as large as the panther, but maybe 2 or 3 times the size of a domestic cat with very pointed ears. Those pop up now and again, and it's not only the panthers that we seem to have here. Pumas also are very common. They're more of the tawny kind of coloured cats, so they're seen a lot as well. And they seem to be the 2 species that have really thrived in the UK. They're obviously nocturnal, and if you were a person that lived here in Britain, in the countryside, there's no lighting. There's a bit in the towns that you go into, but there's none in the country lanes and the roads that you drive down. Surrounding that is just fields and forests and hills. There's nobody there. There's nobody there to see them after dark. And I really think that, it's... I remember a story that somebody told, I can't remember who it was on the internet, about an owl. You mentioned your owl earlier, an owl that lived in the tree next to his house, somewhere in Florida. I forget the guy's name. And anyway, he said he'd lived there 10 years and he'd heard the owl, but he'd never seen it. And that was living in the tree next to his house. And I think, well, how about a reasonably, intelligent, developed predator like a big cat living in the countryside where it has hundreds of miles to roam without seeing a single person, only coming out at night, primarily? How often would we really see them? We see them hundreds of times per year, but I think if we were active outdoorsmen, or if we had something similar that you have in the States, sort of night hunters, people that go at night hunting, commonly we don't really have a lot of that. I think they'd be seen a lot more, actually.
What about dogmen? How many sightings are there of dogmen in Britain?
That's less frequent. So with permission from the British Bigfoot Research Group, they allow me to utilize their map and their research, and there are quite a few sightings of dogman, some of which I could tell you about if you like. There was one in 2016.
Our listeners seem to be totally fascinated with dogmen. I will tell you right now, it's just a total fascination.
It's a real
Carry
puzzler.
on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, but I agree with you. It's a real puzzler to me because again, it's a newish animal that's come to my attention. New to me anyway, and I actually first started thinking about it here when there was a sighting in a place called Hull in the north of England. That's Hull, Hull, and it was named Old Stinker, or the Beast of Barmston Drain. Barmston is an area, and a drain there it's kind of a gully that allows water to flow through an area. So it's a stream, if you will, or a gully that allows excess water to flow around the town to stop flooding. So it's called Old Stinker, the Beast of Barmston Drain, and that was sighted in September or December, I can't remember now, late last year. And it was originally sighted by a woman who saw what she described as a werewolf. And it was stood upright one moment, and the next thing she knew, it was down on all fours, running like a dog. She saw it jump 30 feet over to the other side of the embankment over the drain and over a wall into some gardens. And what she noticed very particularly is it ran both on two legs and on all fours, and it seemed to have the physical qualities of both a human and a wolf. And I know that really matches the dogman sighting, almost explicitly a dogman sighting. There was another couple that saw it the same week. It said it was a tall and hairy creature, and it was again next to this stream, and it was eating a dog, an Alsatian dog that it had preyed upon. And as soon as they spotted it eating this dog, it picked it up in its mouth and jumped over an 8-foot high fence.
Good night. Oh, see, I'm thinking about that movie, American Werewolf in London, and I'm just going there, and I would never, you wouldn't catch me going to the moors even in broad daylight, and so I'm done. No. I have a phobia about animals that eat people alive.
Me too. I think that's a reasonable phobia, Lori.
Glad to hear you think so, because I have that phobia. Wow.
I'm terrified of bears, actually, and I've never seen a bear. I'm unlikely to see a bear here. There are some reports out in the woods, occasional reports of bears on the loose in this country, but they're very rare. But I'm actually terrified of them because here's an animal that can run as fast as a horse, can climb trees and swim. And
where do you go to get away from it?
How do you get away from a bear? Exactly.
Only if you sprout wings and fly. It's the only way you can get away from it.
Exactly. Terrified of them.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Well, this looks like a really good stopping place, so we're going to take a moment and go to intermission, and we will be back in about 7 minutes.
Okay.
I'll get you something to drink, run to the restroom, and we'll be back in a minute. Lauren, take it away. Okay, we're back, and you're listening to Night Callers Bigfoot Radio, and our guest tonight is Andy McGrath. He's the author of Beasts of Britain. And Andy, are you back with us?
I am. I'm here.
Okay. You know, we were talking earlier, and I want Jeff to jump in too, because I know Jeff is very interested in talking to you as well, and I don't want to hog the guest. I already told him that. But we were talking earlier before the show about how the difference between the people in Britain, in England, in the UK, versus the people in Wales. And would you tell us a little bit about that and how that affects, you think that, how would that affect the amount of witnesses that come forward?
Well, it's hard to pigeonhole it. I mean, we are essentially all British, that's a fact. But within Britain, you've got several races living together, several natural races, apart from the people who've joined us over the years. So you have the English, in the sort of the north and south and the southern bit here. On the west, you have the Cornish, who are a Celtic tribe, very similar to the Welsh. And then above them you have Wales, you have the Welsh. And then in the far west you have Ireland, of course, so it's a different country. And at the top we have Scotland. And they are all essentially different countries with different peoples. Now, all of them, apart from the English, are Celtic peoples. And the English are Angles, they're sort of a Germanic, Norman people originally. And our cultures are different. So we have many things in common, of course. But culturally speaking, I would say Welsh people and Irish people especially are very warm. They're very forthcoming. A lot of people joke and say that Welsh and Irish people will talk to you forever without telling you anything.
They must be from East Texas, too.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
Whereas
I have been accused of that over the years.
Exactly.
You don't say.
Exactly. I mean, that's your Scottish blood pushing its way out of you there. But we're just different. And I really like English people. I live here with them in their country. I like them very much. But they're just not as emotionally engaged. It's not in their culture to be that way. And so I think it could impact upon their sighting, because there could be perhaps more of a reticence to report something that might make them look foolish, or that might make them might make people ridiculous. But it doesn't mean that they're not reporters. Most of the reports are in England, but it also has the largest population out of the 4 countries. So what I've noticed from the maps, at least that Deborah has made is that most of the reportings is where there are greater populations of people. So it's just incidental that there are more people to see them. I don't think it makes a massive difference to the way that we report, maybe just in detail. Perhaps the Celtic people are a bit more willing to come out and say what they've seen, and be a bit more proud of that, a bit more unashamed of what's happened to them.
Hey, who's washing dishes? I texted that to Andy, and he's probably thinking, "What is she talking about?"
I didn't quite hear what you said, actually.
You got washing muted, Lauren?
Wasn't me. I'm nowhere near the kitchen. Plus, I have the only way I wash dishes is in the dishwasher.
You're loading the dishwasher, Jeff.
That's it, and I'm not talking about getting my wife drunk either.
What about you, Ricky? Are you with us tonight?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, do you have any questions? Yes. Do you have any questions
sorry.
for Andy?
I kind of caught it in about an hour late, so I didn't get a whole lot. But I kept hearing him talk about whales, and all I can think about is the whales catfish. That is like a dream for me to go overseas and catch one of them.
Oh, yeah. The Wells catfish.
Yeah, I'm with you too, though.
Yeah.
I don't want to catch them when they. I can't remember where it was, but they transported a bunch of them to a warm water river somewhere overseas, and they get ridiculously huge.
Yeah, that's right. In Spain, they're very big. Yeah, they're very, very big.
But in Wales, it's cold water, so they don't get nearly as big.
No.
But they're more aggressive
supposed
in
to
the
be,
cold water.
they're not actually supposed to be part of our environment. They're not natural to our country, but there are some here. There was a little story recently when we had the Olympics here 4 years ago, that that part of the Thames that runs through the Olympic village, some people saw something stuck a duck, a goose, under the water. Like, a goose is a pretty big duck. And it was sucked down completely.
Yeah.
I myself have seen a big, rounded, black head break the surface of the water in the dock. That's just about 5 minutes from my house here on my walk to work in the morning. I walked to the station, and it was about 5:30 in the morning in the summer. I glanced down into the dock where the boats were, and suddenly I saw a very sort of roundy black head come out of the water and go back in through the corner of my eye. I couldn't really get much detail other than I thought, I wonder if that's a big catfish. So they are here, all around.
I've watched shows and heard stories of them like completely coming halfway out of the water up onto the banks to grab pigeons.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
That'd be amazing, man.
Oh, God, catfish. Frightening.
You wouldn't need anything but a net. Just have you a pigeon there tied with a string and just wait for them when they come up on the bank. Just net them right then.
Just a big old wooden stick. Caveman.
They're tough. I mean, some of those Wells catfish, I think they get to 8 or 9 feet in length, and they're very heavy. They're big fish. Very big fish.
Do people eat them over there? I mean,
well, no, they're not supposed to actually be here. So there's rumors of some of them being in our rivers and being sighted, but they're not actually native to the UK. They're more common in Spain, where it's warmer, or Portugal and places like that.
Yep.
That's always been one of my bucket lists.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things like that I'd really like to do. Talking about bucket lists, I was mentioning to Laurie before the break that I did go to Loch Ness to look for Nessie. And we went out on the water in a boat and walked around the loch and stayed in a lovely hotel just with a dining room was completely about 30 feet from the water. And there'd been a sighting from that dining room about 5 years before. So, of course, I spent a lot of time in the dining room when we were in a hotel. Not because the food was great or anything like that, just to look out the window. Obviously.
You were waiting.
I had to eat when I was there to be polite, of course. But I was waiting, and 2 years after we left Loch Ness, there was another sighting. 9 people sighted it again from that window. So I was too early, and I was very gutted to not be there. But it was a similar kind of hump sighting, big brownish grey hump comes out of the water, sort of does a bit of a loop or swims around for a bit and sinks. So it wasn't a head and a neck or anything like that. But I've been to Loch Ness to do that, and also to Cornwall, where there's another Loch Ness type monster called Morgar, which is a Cornish word, Celtic word meaning sea giant. And that practically looks like a copy of Nessie, actually. And I was recently there, about 3 months ago, because there's been rumours of a sighting, and there's been a lot of sightings in that part of England recently. And again, no luck. But I suppose with these things, as you were saying with Bigfoot, if you go out into the woods looking for Bigfoot, he's not really predisposed to hanging about and waiting for you to catch up with him. have a look. He's a wild animal, and he knows you're there before you know.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the Loch Ness Monster is?
I personally, I know people skirt around this subject a lot, and they say it's a giant sterile eel. It's a sturgeon, which can get, the river does connect to the sea on both sides, or it's a big otter, or maybe some people even suggested an unknown species of long-necked seal. And all of it, to me, seems like a rather big and ridiculous effort to say it's not a plesiosaur, which it very clearly is.
Yeah.
All of the descriptions saw. And the thing that stops us saying that is because the pervading paradigm says, well, plesiosaurs are extinct. But how do we know they're
250 million years ago, something couldn't live now.
Exactly. Unless the fossil record that we have, I mean, it's the thing about the fossil record is that, and I'm no expert on this, but the little that I know about it is that the timeline of evolution in the fossil record is put together through correlation. So actually all of the layers you see in the fossil record, they don't exist in one place. They take one layer from this country and one layer from another, and they say, okay, that's an old fossil in that rock layer, so that rock layer is old. And then they say, how do you know the rock layer is old? And they say, because it's got an old fossil in it. So they use circular reasoning to date it, and it's a good theory, and as a guide, the geologic column is it's a good guide as to what should happen if for that theory to be true, but they don't tell you that it doesn't exist anywhere. You can't demonstrate that order of life anywhere in the world. You have to assume it. So that, to me, I'm not getting into the whole sort of evolution thing, but that to me says so that there's hope that plesiosaurs can still be alive, because if you had to assume this geologic column, you've had to make up the orders in the way you want. If they don't exist in one place, then my plesiosaur can still be alive, because you haven't really proved he died out. You've assumed it. Yeah. And that's my whole point with this. In the book, I don't really get into that kind of stuff. That's more of a personal opinion, but it's the thing that makes me think, well, I don't have to say it's a giant eel. It looks like a plesiosaur. It's probably a plesiosaur.
Yeah. Well, what about the coelacanth? Am I saying that right? Coelacanth?
That's right. Coelacanth, that's right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, they're supposed to be extinct too, and they found that. That was from the same period as the plesiosaur.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sayings is the fact that lack of evidence does not mean lack of existence.
Exactly.
Just because we can't find evidence that something is there doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just like here in the United States, there's no fossil record, they claim, for any type of Bigfoot creature. And my theory on the whole thing is their fossil record is no different than the human fossil record. Therefore, if you find bones that are identical to human bones, you're not, unless you're seeking to find who that person was, you're not going to run any kind of DNA studies, and you're still not going to run a study to see if they're 100% human, as in modern human. You're going to run and see if they match any DNA in the missing person's database. So, here's a femur. Well, it's the length of a human femur. It's the width of a human femur, so it's got to be a human femur. Same thing with teeth and everything else, a skull, everything else. If it looks human, it's got to be human. Therefore, we're not going to test it to see if it's not human. One of my biggest mysteries that I love from in that area of the world is, and I hope I pronounced this correctly, is there's the tale of the gray men. Are you familiar with the gray men?
That's right. In Ben McDewey.
Ben McDewey? Yeah, Ben McDewey.
Yeah.
Which, that rivals the Yeti and Bigfoot. it goes as far back as whenever the old tales of the Scottish wild men and everything. But whenever they describe them, it sounds just like they're describing a Yeti or the white Bigfoot creatures from the northern United States. That except one difference is they're often seen wearing some type of rags or clothing of some type.
Yeah. I mean, in the history of the woodwose, which is what they're called here, the Bigfoot, you're probably familiar with that word anyway. They are often depicted in some sort of loin kind of cloth or something in the old drawings, and as hairy men, but that just look like men. Although I don't really know. I mean, there's no modern sightings that mention them wearing clothes, and there are a lot of modern sightings. So it's not only, the grey man of Ben McDwee. There's in Scotland and all over the country. There's a lot of sightings. There was actually a sighting here very recently. I have it here. I'll just bring it up for you now and just tell you about this if you don't mind. And that was of the what's it called again? Let me just find it. Here we go. So it's the Sussex ape man, and Sussex is a county that's very close to London. And that was in 2016. And there was a dog walker. She actually got a picture of it. She was walking her dog in a sort of a nature walk there in a local forest, and suddenly, the dog come running out of the bushes, and she saw what you can only describe as a tall ape man. She said it was really big and massive. She didn't know what it could be, and she described it, it looked like a Bigfoot to me. Those were her very words. And she snapped a quick picture of it, and the picture, it's grainy and far away, as is the want for, taking a picture of something you weren't expecting to see. But it looks like it's covered in very black fur, and the face in the distance, at least in the blurry photo, you can see the face seems to be free of hair. And it does seem to be of a large size. So, and that's just in 2016. That's just last year.
And where did you say that one was seen at in 2016?
That's in Sussex. So that's the Sussex ape man.
Now, is that anywhere near where they see the what is it? Tunbridge Wells.
It's not so. Exactly. So the ape man of Tunbridge Wells. That's another one. Now, that was seen in 2012, and that's very close. So Sussex is next to Kent, and Tunbridge Wells is in Kent. And so they're just the counties that are next to each other, basically, or very close to each other.
If memory serves me correctly, like the Tunbridge Wells, there were sightings all the way back in the 40s.
That's right. 70 years before. That's right.
Yeah. So, there's a long history of ape man sightings in that area.
Oh yeah. Some of them have have history going back a very, very long way. What I wanted to do for this book, which isn't fully finished yet, I do have publishers interested in it, but I'm kind of halfway through it at the moment, was focus on recent sightings. And the reason I wanted to do that is because when it's recent, it's real somehow. People's mind, you're not reaching back to a faraway memory of something that once happened to people who are no longer here. And primarily, all the different creatures that I've included in the book, the sightings are within 20, 30 years maximum, but usually within 10, as close as possible as we can be. In relation, Ricky, to the Bigfoot, there's been a lot of sightings recently. There was one actually this month in Northern Ireland, in a forest. And there's a picture you can look at online, called the Irish Bigfoot. That was a lady walking, lady walking her dog. You've probably seen it already.
Yes, I still did. Yeah. I've had several people send it to me.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, she didn't know she photographed it, so it could be argued that it's something else. You can't ever really say, but you can seem to see a semblance of a face below the hair at the front of it. So, I think that's very interesting.
Oh.
Exactly. And it's very intriguing to me that you know, with the population expansion of Britain and all of that whole actual, you know, the whole UK there. I should say it's not surprising to me that there's been more sightings of all of these animals, all of these cryptid creatures, because one, there's more people, and there's more eyes.
Yeah.
Two, the deforestation and the habitat has dwindled to bare minimums. And there's people, and what habitat is left, there's people hiking, people backpacking, people going on picnics, people doing walking dogs, you know, just everything in those areas that are left. So it's not surprising that there is quite a large group of sightings in recent history.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing about the UK in regards to that actually is we've actually got a lot of called green belt land, a lot of protected land that you're not allowed to build on. And generally speaking, the cities don't expand that much. Most of our population is in our cities, not in the countryside. So the countryside is actually very underpopulated and very rural. And I talked earlier about, you know, the darkness that's out there. So if you come from where I come from, you're driving between the towns, it's black. It's completely black. You don't see anything. And there's just country lanes, hedges on each side. And a lot of these Bigfoot sightings, for instance, they take place on roads, similarly to the United States, where something is decided to cross a road, and I'm assuming not gather that a car is coming, and it's run across the road as the car comes, and they're sighted. And a lot of our sightings are based upon that, you know, roadside sightings. So as opposed to what you say, it's actually not that populated. In terms of space as a country, it's very underpopulated. We've got a very big population, but we're all jammed into cities like me, you know, into London.
Yeah, here in the United States, it's like, you know, when the city wants to expand, they just expand out.
No,
you know,
you can't do that.
You got places like Houston. Well, Houston isn't just Houston. Houston has 10 towns around it that are still Houston, but, you know, like Katy and different places that, you know, they just expand outwards and just keep engulfing more and more and more and more land.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that sort of happens, you know, this into, you know, Greater London becomes greater and greater, but it never becomes something new. It's just some of the outlying towns just get included into its zip code, you know. They don't really become bigger. Or people like me who work in the centre but can't really afford the $1 million+ pounds to buy a house there, or live outside and travel in, because, you know, it's insanely expensive. So most of us are just working around the clock to convince ourselves that we want to stay here.
Oh my goodness!
Whatever reason we think that we want to, but it's a very expensive place. It's a nice place. If you ever have the chance to visit, I would suggest it, because it's actually a friendly city, as cities go. You know, far friendlier than somewhere like Paris or Berlin, for sure. But even in London, there's lots of green spaces, which I was trying to get back around to, actually, and there are sightings. There are sightings here of Bigfoot-like animals in and around London, of big cats and things like that. And as we talked about earlier, in the river, you know, with Tamsin, as she's called, the Thames River Monster. You know, there's all kinds of things around. One of the really big parts of this book I want to try to get over to people about Britain, about, you know, beasts of North America, beasts of beasts of the East, beasts of Amazon, whatever it is, that there's so many animals living off us and around us, you know, beasts in our backyard, actually, that we don't realize that they're there sometimes because they're nocturnal, or they're elusive, or they're just good at what they do, staying out of sight. I'm almost sure in the US and here in the Bigfoots and all the other creatures are a lot closer sometimes, or at certain points of the year, than we think. They're a lot closer to us than we think, and it's only, their ingenuity and their ability to hide that keeps us from seeing them most of the time.
I have a question for you, Andy. On your daylight and darkness, on your days, are they particularly more dark hours than there is light hours in your...
Yeah, at this time of the year, yes. So it gets light about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and it starts to get dark about 3:30, 4 o'clock at the moment.
Wow.
And so it's pretty grey in between. And we get some lovely sunny, bright wintry sunny days as well. But it's very short, the day in the winter, actually. And where I grew up in Wales, coming back to Wales again, where it's very wet and it rains a lot in the west, it's also very grey. So your daylight hours are kind of a half night almost. And consequently, I'm very pale as a person, as lots of Celtic people are, and it remarked upon it that I glow in the dark. You can, if you turn the lights off, you can still see me. Which must be some sort of evolutionary navigational skill I picked up for those dark times. But it's a very dark day, and at this time of year, if that's what you're asking, there would be more nighttime hours for them to be about.
Yeah. Well, you say you're in the process of writing this book, but you're also interested in writing a TV series based on the Have you started on that?
I've written the outline for it, and thanks to the book, I already have hundreds of locations and different places that we could go. I've started talking to some people about being involved in it, and talking to the other cryptozoologists who are writing a lot about possible involvement. And some people have expressed interest, name no names, and others are more cautious because TV often tends to make fools of cryptozoologists and makes it a spectacle.
Yes, they do. Even here in the States. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Finding Bigfoot show, but you can see after a few series that whatever they intended to do or whether they wanted to achieve by that series is kind of taken from them.
Yes.
And it's all now listening to noises in the woods that the rest of us can't hear.
Yes.
Or the sound effects break in. Yeah, exactly. And the Bigfoot noise comes in, and you just think, all of these guys clearly, and even Matt Moneymaker being the founder of the BFRO, he obviously was serious about searching for this animal, and probably still is. And in the meantime, TV has to be interesting. It can't just be wandering around in the woods all night making noises. You've got to add a few sound effects. You have to have a bit of drama. Otherwise, why is anybody going to watch that? That sort of silence. That would be the reality of looking for Bigfoot. 4 or 5 silent hours walking in the woods, occasionally looking at weird stick structures and trees, right? Or is that a footprint? Is that not a footprint? Is that a tree break? Is it high enough? It would be boring. So what I wanted to do with the series, to include all of the British cryptids, including the big cats, is get the sightings lined up and the witnesses, and make it sort of a mix between. Have you seen that British TV series River Monsters?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
Jeremy Wade. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So somewhere between River Monsters, where there is an expedition kind of aspect to it, where you've got your cameras and your submersible drones, looking for Nessie and Bigfoot, whoever. But other parts where really you're doing research, you're looking at the beautiful areas where things have been seen, and you're talking to people. We have a program here called Coast. So, our whole country is coast, basically. It's all coast. And, you can drive around it, and it's beautiful, really. It's all beach line. And it's a very beautiful, interesting program that gives a historical background about these areas around the coast. And I said to the guy I had tried to pitch to that I would like it to be a mix between river monsters and coast. You know, not so sensational as finding Bigfoot, something that's a bit more British, a bit more science-y, but, you know, this mysterious aspect is still at the forefront of it, and we're talking to witnesses, we're photographing beautiful things, and we're going out in the hope of finding something, but not with this kind of, we're going to get it this time. I just heard a Bigfoot. Is that Nessie's head popping out of the water there? Oh, I'm sorry, you missed it. None of that.
It'd be similar to our Monster Quest, what we used to have.
Monster Quest. I love
Quest.
Monster Quest, exactly.
Yes.
Like Monster Quest
Exactly.
or Animal X.
Yes.
Or do you remember a show called Strange Universe that was on in the late 90s?
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that show.
I love that show.
I can tell you what, if you do succeed, I'll watch it. If they'll bring it over to the States, I would
thank
watch
you.
it.
I'll tell you what, if you succeed, I'll be on it.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
You will, too.
You can come down here and film. Y'all can bring cameras, and I'll take you on an adventure in the river bottom.
We would love it. Now, the Beast of Britain thing was supposed to be the first thing. The next was Beast of North America, Beast of South America, Beast of Amazonia, Beast of the East, you know, Beast of Africa, and just take it everywhere. I just thought that's a great idea. Let's just start with the UK, Beast of Europa, and then just spread out. Because there's beasts everywhere. It's not just here. It was just my focus to try and give some sort of focus, some attention to our island.
It would be most excellent to get to go to Australia and see the Yowie.
Australia, exactly. Beast of Australia. The Yowie, the Junjidi. Are you familiar with Yowie hunters?
Yes.
There's a great YouTube series they do with really typically Australian down-to-earth sightings, and you know how the Australians are. It's just bare bones and facts. And the guy interviewing them, you know, if they get emotional, he just ignores what they're saying and sticks. Okay, back to the story. Back to the story. What did you see? And, you know, what was it wearing? What kind of dress did it have on? And he's, I forget his name. Dean Harrison's one of them, and there's another guy. Anyway, that's really good. Something that's down to earth like that, but with a bit of pizzazz, a little bit of, you know, sensationalism to make it interesting to watch. You want to watch it as well.
Because that's what people are hooked on nowadays. They're looking for that adrenaline boost. Yes. Yeah.
But, you know, it won't be a killing Bigfoot, and it won't be a mountain monsters or mountain whatever. It'll be something very real, hopefully. If anybody buys it, if they buy it, if anybody says yes, which I'm not sure they will.
Well, we're down to 3 minutes. So is there anything you want to share with us in the last? See, I told you it would go quickly, Andy. And I told you it would be nothing. It would go very quickly. So you have about 3 minutes left. Is there anything that you just really want to share before we say goodnight?
Look behind you in the woods. Look into your back gardens. Look into the stones and into the trees. There's something in there unexpected waiting for you. And don't believe them when they say that mysterious creatures don't exist. Something is out there. People are seeing something in the woods. Bigfoot, lizard man, yeti, Loch Ness monster, whatever it could be. You know, a giant rat, whatever it is. Something's out there for you to find. Get involved in adventure and get yourself out there and have a look. It's good fun, and it'll change your life.
That was great. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Ricky, Jeff, and Lauren.
Yes, you are excellent, most informative guests, and if you get your book finished, you need to let me know so we can have you back on again, so we can let everybody know how to buy it.
Yeah.
I will.
And hopefully
we will.
Fund your television adventure and get that going for you.
We'll that would be amazing.
We can to help you out.
Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Lauren,
coming on. You were a great guest.
Thank you. I had a great time, and your southern hospitality was incredibly warm. I can smell the whiskey and wine, and sending you a digital drink, each one of you. Enjoy yourselves. Have a nice evening.
All right. Thank you. You too.
God bless.
You.
Bye.
God bless you. Everyone, be sure to come back next week. We're going to have, oh my goodness, I do believe his name is Todd Holliday. And he is a real interesting gentleman. So y'all get ready and hang on. And we will be back next Monday. Same time, same bat station. Warren, can you roll that outro? And we'll all say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.